AI is like everywhere now, right? Like suggesting stuff to buy online and powering those virtual assistants we're all using all the time.
Right.
But get this, it's getting into religion now.
Really?
Yeah. Robots in temples, algorithms giving spiritual guidance, the whole thing.
Wow. That is fascinating, isn't it? That mix of technology and something as personal as, faith.
Yeah.
We're looking at clips from this documentary, God and Robots, to see how different faiths are using AI.
And these clips, uh, they bring up some big questions.
I bet.
Like what happens when you put a robot in a 400-year-old Buddhist temple in Japan?
Well, in that case, you get Minder, this robot that looks like Canon, the Buddhist goddess of mercy.
Hmm.
It's such a striking image, this combination of old tradition and, like, really new technology.
Yeah. It's not just for show, though.
Oh, right.
There's this monk there, Tenzin, who thinks Minder can actually teach people about Buddhism.
Oh,
He sees AI as like a way to make those teachings easier to understand,
yeah.
helping people connect with their spirituality.
That brings up a really good point, doesn't it? Is this just, a gimmick using robots to get attention, or could it be a real shift in how people, connect with their faith?
Especially in a world where some people might, feel a little weird going into a church or a temple. Maybe a robot gives them a less like judgmental space to, you know, think about those big questions.
Yeah, yeah, that's one way to look at it. But then on the other hand, there's SanTO in Poland, a Catholic robot made to be a prayer companion.
Hmm.
People have called it a Catholic Alexa, which is an interesting comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, does talking to a robot about faith make the experience like less meaningful?
Mhm.
Or could it make religion more accessible to people who might otherwise feel, I don't know, left out or unsure?
And if a robot can answer questions about prayer or give spiritual comfort, are we kind of handing over our faith to algorithms? These are things we really need to think about, especially as AI becomes more and more a part of our lives.
Yeah, it reminds me of RoboRabbi, this AI that we learned about, that sends out daily challenges based on Jewish teachings.
Oh, interesting.
Like things like turning off your phone for an hour, these little nudges toward a more mindful spiritual life.
I see.
The person who made it, Lyre, even got her grandma to try it, and she thought it was really helpful.
Really?
But it raises this other big question, right? Can an algorithm really capture the depth of faith?
Hmm.
Are we losing something important by turning spiritual ideas into these bite-sized AI-generated challenges?
Hmm.
Like, is there a risk of making it too simple? Can a robot truly understand the nuances of faith and give meaningful guidance?
Those are hard questions, and
Uh-huh.
each religious community will have to figure this out as AI gets more common. We're seeing it everywhere, from the Vatican releasing a smart rosary to Muslim prayer apps with millions of downloads, even the Church of England working with Alexa.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's not just a few random examples. It seems like there's a real movement here with technology affecting different faiths in lots of ways.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder, is this a trend in all religions, or are some faiths more open to AI than others? And what does it mean for religious leaders in the future?
Right. Are robots going to be leading sermons soon? Will AI replace priests and rabbis?
Well, people have different opinions. Monk Tenzin, the one we talked about, believes robots can teach. But we also heard a rabbi in the documentary say something completely different. He said, and I quote, "The robot will never replace a rabbi because he has no soul."
Wow. That's that's a powerful statement. It gets in the core of what we're talking about, right? Can a robot really give that human connection, that feeling of empathy and understanding that's so important for religious leaders?
That's a crucial point. What are the essential qualities of religious leadership that AI might not have? Compassion, empathy, the ability to connect with people on a deep emotional level.
Okay, so maybe robots aren't taking over sermons just yet. But what about the potential dangers of AI in religion? Some people worry that AI could get too powerful, even crazy, and start controlling us. Is that a real concern or just like science fiction paranoia?
It's definitely something to think about. Any powerful technology has the potential to be used in bad ways. We need to be careful about giving AI a role in something as personal as faith.
Especially if we start thinking it knows everything. If people start believing the algorithm is always right, who's really in control?
And that brings us to a really important point. We have to be careful about trusting AI too quickly, especially when it comes to faith and belief.
So where does all this leave us? Is AI in religion a perfect match or a recipe for disaster?
It's complicated, and it's changing, and it's too soon to say for sure. We see the potential for AI to make religious experience richer, more accessible, to help people connect in new ways. But it also comes with its own set of risks and challenges.
Okay, so it's not a simple answer.
Hmm.
But that's what makes it so interesting. We're at this point where we have to decide how we want to use this powerful technology in a way that fits our values.
Exactly. Exactly. It really is. It's like we're both excited and kind of worried about what AI could do, especially with religion. It's like AI is showing us our own hopes and fears about technology and what we believe and the future in general.
That idea of AI being like a mirror, that really makes sense to me. It makes me think about how we're always looking for answers for what things mean, and now we have this powerful new thing that might help us find them. But then there's also that worry in the back of my mind. What if we start relying on it too much? What if we forget that we have our own choices to make?
Yeah, I get that. It's a valid concern, and it shows why it's important to look at AI carefully with like a sense of, okay, let me think about this. We can't just accept everything it throws at us, especially when it comes to something as personal as faith, right?
Right. So how do we deal with this new world of AI and religion? Do we jump in with both feet, or do we reject it completely, or is there some kind of middle ground?
I don't think there's one answer that works for everyone. Each person, each religious community will have to think about these things and find their own way. But what's really important is that we approach it with open minds, but also with critical thinking and, a healthy dose of skepticism.
Skepticism even about AI.
And especially about AI. It's important to remember that AI is just a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good things or bad things. It's up to us as humans to guide how it's developed and make sure it's used in a way that's good for everyone. That means asking tough questions, being aware of biases it might have, and not being afraid to think about the ethical side of things.
So no bowing down to our robot overlords anytime soon.
I certainly hope not. But seriously, we have to be thoughtful and careful about how we let AI into our lives. And when it comes to religion, that means remembering how much it could influence what we believe and how we practice our faith. We need to make sure we're using it to make our faith stronger, not to replace it.
Okay, got it. No blind faith in algorithms.
Yeah.
But in the real world, how do we actually make sure AI is used responsibly and ethically, especially with something as sensitive as religion?
It's a complicated question, and honestly, I don't think the answers are easy. But one thing we can do is to encourage open and honest conversations about what AI can do, both the good and the bad. And those conversations need to happen not just between religious leaders and tech people, but with everyone in society.
So kind of like what we're doing right now, trying to understand it all through talking.
Exactly. The more we talk about these things, the more we'll know and the better decisions we can make about how to use AI in a way that fits with what we believe in.
That makes sense. So what are some of the important things we should be thinking about as we move forward? What are the red flags to watch out for?
One big concern is that AI could be used to manipulate or control people. For example, imagine an AI that's designed to use people's fears and insecurities against them, using religious language to take advantage of them.
That's kind of scary, like a digital cult leader.
Exactly. And because AI is so good at tailoring things to each person, it could be really good at targeting individuals with messages that fit their specific beliefs and weaknesses.
So we should be suspicious of any AI that tries to tell us what to believe or how to practice our faith.
Absolutely. We can't just accept everything an AI tells us, especially about faith. We have to use our own judgment. Faith is a personal thing, and it should be guided by our own hearts and minds, not by some algorithm.
That's a good reminder.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the flip side? Are there any good things about AI in religion that we should be excited about?
Definitely. One potential benefit is that AI could help more people understand religious texts and teachings. Imagine an AI that can translate those old scriptures into modern languages, making them easier for people today to grasp.
That would be amazing.
Mm.
I've always wanted to read different religious texts, but sometimes the language is just, too hard to understand.
Exactly. AI could even help create interactive learning tools that make exploring different faiths more interesting and engaging.
So it could actually help people from different religions talk to each other and understand each other better.
That's the idea. By breaking down barriers and encouraging communication, AI could help bridge the gaps between different faith communities and promote tolerance and respect.
That's a really hopeful thought. Instead of AI dividing people, it could actually bring them together.
We hope so, anyway. But it's important to remember that technology is always a two-sided coin. It can be used for good or bad, and what happens in the end depends on us, the humans who make and use it.
So it comes back to being careful and deliberate about how we use AI.
Exactly. We need to be responsible, recognizing its power and potential, but also staying alert to the risks. And we need to keep having these open and honest conversations about how we want AI to fit into our lives, including our religious lives, in a way that reflects our values.
Wow, that's a lot to think about.
It is. But it's also an incredibly exciting time to be alive. We're seeing the start of a new era where technology is changing everything about our lives, even our relationship with, the divine. And it's up to us to shape this future in a way that benefits everyone.
Okay, so no pressure then.
Not at all. But seriously, these are questions we all need to be thinking about. The future of faith, the future of humanity is at stake.
Wow, that's deep. And speaking of deep things, we haven't even talked about the philosophical side of AI and religion. Like, what if AI starts asking its own big questions about life? What if it develops its own kind of spirituality?
Now, those are questions for another deep dive.
Definitely. But before we go down that road, I want to come back to something you said earlier. The idea that AI could be used to manipulate what people perceive, even create some kind of digital cult. How do we protect ourselves from that?
That's where critical thinking and media literacy become crucial. We need to be able to tell the difference between sources of information that are reliable and those that are trying to mislead or exploit us.
So it's not just about being skeptical of AI, it's about being skeptical of everything we see and hear online.
Exactly. We live in a world with so much information, and it's easy to be swayed by misinformation or propaganda, no matter where it comes from. It's really important to develop the skills to look at information critically, question what we're told, and seek out different points of view.
Especially when it comes to something as personal and important as our faith.
Absolutely. What we believe should be based on reason, evidence, and our own experiences, not blind faith in some algorithm.
Okay, so critical thinking, media literacy, skepticism, those are all essential tools for dealing with AI and religion. Anything else we should remember?
Don't forget the importance of human connection. In the end, faith is about more than just information or rituals. It's about community, compassion, and shared values. Those are things that AI can't replicate, at least not yet.
That's a good point. As much as we might be fascinated by what AI can do, we can't forget how important human relationships are and the unique qualities that we bring to the table. It feels like we keep coming back to this idea of balance.
Yeah, finding that sweet spot between really using what AI can do and also protecting, what makes us human.
A lot of what we've talked about today comes down to that. Yeah.
Totally. It's about realizing that AI can be this powerful tool for good, but it's not going to replace things like human connection, thinking critically, or that really personal journey of faith.
So if someone's listening to this and they're feeling a little overwhelmed by all this talk about AI, what's like the one big thing you'd want them to remember?
I think the most important thing to remember is that AI is a tool. It's not in charge. We decide how we use it, and it's up to us to make sure it's used ethically and in a way that fits with our values, especially when we're talking about something as personal and important as faith.
So no bowing down to our robot overlords anytime soon.
Hopefully not. But really, we need to be smart and careful about how AI becomes part of our lives, especially when it comes to religion. It means asking tough questions and having open and honest conversations.
Like, are we okay with robots giving us spiritual comfort? Is there a line we shouldn't cross?
Exactly. These are really complex questions, and there aren't any easy answers, but the more we talk about them, the better we'll be able to navigate this whole new world.
Well, I feel a lot more informed after this deep dive. It's definitely given me a lot to think about.
Me too. It's been a really, really interesting exploration.
I have to admit, I'm actually kind of excited to see what happens in the future. Who knows what amazing and maybe even a little scary things AI will bring to the world of religion.
One thing's for sure, it's going to be an interesting ride.
For sure. And speaking of journeys, it's time for us to wrap up this deep dive. But before we go, I want to leave our listeners with one last question to think about, something to really ponder.
Yeah, go for it.
What role, if any, do you want AI to play in your own spiritual life? It's something worth thinking about because the choices we make now will affect the future of faith for generations to come.
I like that. We encourage everyone listening to really consider that question. And if you want to share your thoughts, feel free to leave a comment below. Let's keep this conversation going.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AI and religion. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep those conversations flowing.